reality is, as I look at buses, kitchens, construction, buildings, the dollars are decreasing, but all that is increasing. So the biggest challenge for me is getting everybody to understand that money's limited.
That's Dr. Curtis Chesick, the Assistant Superintendent of Operations at Ozark Public Schools. In today's episode, we're talking money. Specifically, how do you maximize every dollar in education? Budgets are tight, costs are rising, and schools are being asked to do more with less all the time. But for leaders like Dr. Chesick, the challenge isn't just about balancing the books. It's about thinking differently and finding creative solutions to fund the future of education. Welcome to This Educational Life, a podcast by Train. I'm Mariah Presley, the Education and Industry Programs Leader for Train. And in this episode, we're diving into how districts can make their budgets go further and use industry collaboration to improve learning environments for students and teachers without breaking the bank. Dr. Chesick has spent nearly 30 years in education, moving from the classroom to district operations and even into leadership. Now he serves as the Assistant Superintendent in Ozark, a fast-growing community in Missouri where he's tackling a big challenge: growing opportunities for students while managing limited resources. From funding shortfalls to aging buildings, Curtis has had to find innovative solutions to keep the district moving forward.
So really it goes to the growth, right? So we're a bedroom community. We're in an old factory, right? So the factory is left and now it's a school. So that's come off the tax rolls. So in Missouri, we fund public education 50% from the state and 50% locally. So as your student count grows, you have to start building buildings and maintain the ones that you have. But our tax base isn't growing because our industry is leaving. So how do we manage our load? How do we take advantage of what we have? So that's where the Innovation Center, just in a building aspect alone, was innovative. We had to add a new high school, which is a $60 to $70 million add. We bought the building for $4 million. We renovated it for just under $20 million. We furnished it with another $2 million. So we actually were about a third the cost of new construction. And we have a state-of-the-art, wonderful building with great controls and great systems inside of it. So when we look at just across the district, how do we continue to fund the stuff that we have with a shrinking budget? In reality, I mean, it's the same budget, but when you look at inflation and everything that's going on, in 2007, we built a new elementary for about $20 million. That same elementary today would cost us upwards of $40 to $50 million.
Wow.
So we're trying to maintain what we have, and we found a creative way to fund that and cover it.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I think of when I hear about the Ozark story from some of my Train counterparts. And what you guys have done is like that creative approach to funding and using those resources that are available in a new way to bring together kind of a greater end game. And you've really done that in a lot of ways. Talk to me about kind of your day-to-day and some of those things when it comes to this need to innovate and need to grow, do more with less, if you will. How does it show for you? What are some of those challenges that you are running into in your role specifically?
The reality is, I mean, so as I look at buses, kitchens, construction, buildings, the dollars are decreasing, but all that is increasing. So it's even, you put carpet in and you're like, okay, carpet's great. It's going to be wonderful. Well, everybody wants their carpet replaced every 5 years because kids tear carpet up and they spill things on it. So the biggest challenge for me is getting everybody to understand that money's limited. So that's where it really is. We constantly are looking for creative ways to get things done.
Yeah. And so can you ever think of like kind of a point in time? You've done some really big things in the last kind of year and a half. Was there like a moment for you where it was like a specific story or example where you're like, we've got to do something differently?
So I think everybody goes into a job with a checklist.
Yeah.
At least I hope everybody goes in with, hey, I want to leave this better than I found it.
Right.
And that's really what I've worked with my directors. That's the one thing is I acquired a position where the roofs were horrible. The HVAC in several buildings was horrible. Last year, I walked into a boiler closet that I thought I was going to die. I thought there's no way I'm going to get to the other side to hit the kill button.
Yeah.
You want to leave it better for the next person. So as we look at that checklist, the one thing that was on there is I wanted to make sure that we took care of the high school.
Yeah.
That's been a problem. And at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, when it was just 100 degrees outside and inside it was 85, 90 degrees in classrooms, kids aren't learning. Teachers aren't being successful.
Right.
So that was the last thing on my checkbox, I think, is how can we fix that issue?
South Missouri summers are no joke, right? Can you elaborate a little bit more on your thoughts on the learning environment and how some of these challenges that you were experiencing might affect that?
So it's so important that our people understand that kids can't learn in a dirty room, even just a cluttered room. So from the custodial staff to set up and have a clean room for kids to come into where there's not clutter on the floor, the desk, the trash has been emptied, they feel comfortable.
Right.
If it's hot, they're not going to learn. If the CO2 level's too high, kids are getting headaches, they're getting tired. If it's too humid, I mean, humidity actually, I think, has a greater impact on comfort more than the temperature.
Mm-hmm.
So just maintaining all of those and just saying in the past, well, open a window, they'll feel better. Well, opening a window and 85% humid air is coming in and they're just sitting there feeling sticky. It's not really that great of an environment. And we know that if we could give teachers the resources on a curriculum level, they're going to succeed. But on an operations side, if we give them quality instructional facilities, I mean, even the furniture, I mean, are we providing up-to-date furniture, technology, all of that information, all that, we're just going to give them less worries to be concerned about, and they get to focus on kids.
Public schools face countless challenges, but at the heart of it all is one goal: creating the best possible environment for students to learn. That goes beyond great teachers and a strong curriculum. It also includes the buildings the students learn in every day. For Curtis and his team, the solution wasn't just about finding a quick fix. Their aim was to maximize the use of district resources with support from industry leaders like Trane. By focusing on energy efficiency and creative ways to leverage funding incentives, Dr. Chesick paved the way forward for a successful project.
Well, it started with, hey, we have this high school. It's never ran right.
Yeah.
It's the wrong solution for Southwest Missouri. It works great in a desert on a hotel or convention center, but it's not really working for us. How can we fix that? And that's where we started. And of course, then we looked at the offsetting tax credits and how we could do energy savings across the district to bring down our bills to pay for it over time. And in that conversation, it was, what are your other issues? Well, somebody built a building in 2007 and thought it was a good idea to put heat strips in to heat the classrooms with. And that our newest elementary was our most energy inefficient building.
Wow.
And our oldest elementary was our most energy efficient building, which it just blows my mind. So as we started looking at that, we were like, how can we maximize our energy savings across the district? And we really need to take care of West Elementary, which was costing us about $160,000 a year to heat just with electrical strips. So we added a solar field, which helped offset the cost and gave us a great energy savings. I'm watching the ticker every day. In about 3 months, we're just about $40,000 of energy created.
Wow.
Our South Elementary, we're really creative with our elementaries. We put a coordinate direction in front of them and call them an elementary school. But on our South Elementary, our oldest elementary, it was our most efficient, but we still found a way to make that energy neutral. And that's probably, West is good. We're bringing the energy bill down. But South Elementary, we just put a new roof on it this summer. And then on that roof, we put new solar. And that building should be energy neutral. So hopefully I get to watch that ticker and watch that become an energy neutral building as well. But it was that whole project of, it started around how do we fix this one problem. In the original stages, we never went past our original dollar amount. We were able to get some projects done within that dollar amount that we didn't really plan. So we looked at South Elementary, it had a boiler. That's the one that I was scared to death to go in that room last year.
Yeah.
We replaced both of those. We had money left in our contract. So that was a huge win. And at the same time, we were looking at how we can do the same thing at another building, our middle school. But as we're looking at the amount of gas that we're going to save in the high school and or middle school and South Elementary, I mean, I'm anticipating another $50,000 to $60,000 worth of savings.
Wow.
And just the boilers at South and middle school, we're gaining a 65% efficiency just by firing them up. So it's a great opportunity.
Going back a little bit to the funding piece of this, because you shared that, funds are limited, right? Especially when you look at things like inflation and how the demand or the growth is changing in the district. So talk me a little bit through some of the decisions you made or some of the funding components of this that might have been a little bit more creative or resourceful than maybe some of the approaches we've taken in the past.
It was a really good time. There was the 179 tax credits. They've always been available to schools in a way. So we would sign off that, the architects, engineers, and sometimes the builders designed and built an energy efficient building, and that money would roll back to them. In some districts, that money would offset, the cost. So if an architect got $20,000, 179 credit, that would be either a 50-50 wash or a full $20,000 reduction of the bill to the district. But the change was that the districts could now apply for it, and they were eligible for it, which really offsets the cost. And we're in the process of starting that. But just the rebates in general, like again, going back to solar. Solar used to be about a 15 to 20-year payoff, and it was a 15-year warranty on the solar. And looking back, that was probably solar has been around in large quantities for 15 years, so they knew that's what they could warranty it for. And now we're up to a 25-year warranty. So, and the payback is similar, actually a little less, somewhere 10 to 12-year payoff. And with those tax credits, that's even more helpful. So just the fact that we're able to get more energy efficient at the high school, elementary, and those two elementaries. And we also did a lighting retrofit across the district. We started in-house doing that, but we just didn't have the manpower to do a full-scale one. So we had replaced about an eighth of across the district, but they came in and had it completed across the district in about 2 months in time to hit tax credits and rebates from our local power company that we didn't even anticipate. I even received another $22,000 check back from Liberty this week, which puts that total pretty close to $200,000 in rebates that, again, were known about but weren't really calculated in the repayment. So we're able to make our payments through our lease purchase based on the energy savings that we have and as well as our maintenance savings. We're not putting $150,000 into controls. We're not putting new screw compressors in every 6 months. So it really a perfect alignment of energy efficiency, the change in tax credits, the change in technology with solar. And Trane had that knowledge of our district and the systems overall.
With strategic planning, the right collaborations, and a little creative thinking, Curtis and his team not only found a solution, they unlocked unexpected savings and long-term efficiencies. Checks were coming in, maintenance costs were going down, and the district was seeing results they hadn't even planned for. But beyond the dollars and the energy savings, the impact was felt both in the classroom and in the community.
Obviously, the high school, hearing kids coming out of the first day, it's too cold in here. It's too cold. Even to the point where our high school was designed that, hey, we're going to have 2 main gyms and we're going to have an auditorium, but we're never going to use them at the same time. That's unrealistic. We would never use all 3 facilities at the same time. So we're going to put 1 unit on there. We re-engineered it in the rebuild so that we had a unit for our gyms and we had a unit for our auditorium. So everybody in the district knew that the HVAC at the high school has been an issue for 20 years. And we had our opening teacher meeting, our opening staff meeting. Everybody was there, custodians, certified, non-certified, everybody's there. And in years past, it's warm, it's stagnant. You can't feel anything moving.
Yeah.
Because Trane met their deadline, which was great. We had our opening ceremony in there with all of our staff. And on the gym floor, you could actually feel air moving. It wasn't stagnant, and we had 1,000 people in a gym. And, you put 1,000 people in any gym and the temperature is going to rise.
Right.
But it was still so comfortable. I mean, just the win of that. But also, so as the beginning of the year started, we had huge success, but there was one teacher and she's great, love her to death. But she kept putting work orders in, like my air conditioner's not working. I was like, this can't be. So we really got down and looked at it. And the fact of the matter is she had a piece of equipment in the ceiling, a VAV that had not been working probably for, 15, 20 years, but she never realized it because everybody was uncomfortable.
Right.
So just getting it fixed allowed us to even take it down to, I'm not worried about the high school anymore. I'm worried about how I can make that one teacher's classroom comfortable for her and the 25 kids that she has in there every hour.
Right.
So we went from macro to micro pretty quick, and we were able to really troubleshoot a lot of problems.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really powerful story because it really does come down to, now that you've got that kind of solvency across the board, like how can we really start to maximize some of the operational excellence pieces?
Yeah.
And that's where I think it gets really, really fun and interesting. So very cool.
And that's really across the district. In our East Elementary, we have a custodian who is great at what he does. He's probably the epitome of, if a teacher wants something done, I'm going to do it.
That's great.
So he would get in the control system and he would turn things, it's too hot, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to turn it off and it'll cool down because the heat's, it's just blowing way too much heat. Well, Train has got in there and they've really adjusted that in the controls, but they've also determined, hey, you got some valves that are some issues. And so we're going to get those valves replaced over Christmas break. So again, we're getting down to the system as a whole is working, but we're going to look at why this one teacher is uncomfortable, and that custodian shouldn't have to go in and deactivate that device every day at 1:00 just to keep the room comfortable. So yeah, it's across the district that we're able to do that now, focus on individual classrooms and student learning.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Going back to our very first start of the conversation, you talked about kind of the checklist and the one that you walked in with. And so as you prepare to retire, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
How does it feel to kind of leave behind this legacy or these sort of improvements?
Again, go back to the checklist. We're at Southwest Missouri, where Joplin was a huge issue. I say I fortunately had the opportunity, but I don't know that that's the right term, to go to Joplin the day after the tornado and work with the district for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I got to see firsthand the devastation of what that can do to a building. And we knew that what we were doing in Southwest Missouri and really across the country with duck and cover in a bathroom or the lowest level was not safe. So I had really 3 things on my checklist, and that was storm shelters for every building. So every building has a safe place for kids to go in case of a tornado or just even a bad storm.
That's incredible.
The roofs were horrible with Fs, 5 failing roofs. They're 4.5 of them are ready to go, and we've got the process of getting the other one bid out. So, and really the boilers, I mean, it really is a bigger issue. So I'm leaving, and the person that comes in behind me isn't, oh my goodness, I need $20 million to fix all these. It really takes the urgency off of, we're not in response mode every time. We get to actually plan ahead. And I really hope the person that comes in after me is a person that has some training in long-range planning, maybe some, continuous improvement. They could just, all right, we're out of emergency mode. Let's talk about how we're going to get better with our processes and procedures. And we've done that in a lot of ways. But when you start it and then you have to go into emergency mode, then you don't really focus on continuous improvement. Then you come back after the emergency and say, okay, where are we? Well, we have to start over all over again. So I really hope that next person has that kind of time.
Yeah, that would be great. And I'm thinking back to some of what you'd mentioned earlier too, to the lease purchase, to storage, to solar. A lot of these things are incredibly innovative, even in the industry, and getting kind of the privilege in my role to see a lot of what happens beyond Ozark. What advice or kind of wisdom is kind of maybe a closing thought would you impart to that next person for helping to really take on some of those big opportunities that might be a little bit more innovative or unknown to most of the stakeholders in the district or the community?
Yeah, and it's kind of hurtful to me because don't do it just because it's the way you've always done it. Well, we've used to walk to school, right? I mean, I don't know how else to look at that, but we have to constantly change. You have to look at innovation as Don't be the first adopter. That's never good, but be an early adopter. Find ways to maximize your dollars. And a lot of times with innovation, there's money on the front side of it. If you're the last one to adopt something, there's usually not money being, put at it. So I would really just constantly ask, just because we're doing it, is this the best way? And that's really that continuous improvement. Whatever model you're looking at, continuous improvement, don't take it at face value. Don't take it because it's the way we've always done it. Look at every process, every procedure, and determine, is there a better way to do it? Is there a more efficient way to do it? What's best for kids? And get the roadblocks out of the way so that we can fix what the problem is.
And if that's not like a total embodiment of that school district vision we talked about right at the top end, I don't know what else is, because I do really think that that's an important kind of component when it comes to innovation. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much to Dr. Chesick for sharing the story of his district. They transformed the learning environment not just by fixing things, but by changing the way we think about problem solving. From maximizing tax credits to rethinking infrastructure, they've built a system that works smarter, not harder. And the result? Better classrooms, lower costs, and a district that's keeping up with challenges and staying ahead of them. If there's one takeaway from this conversation, it's that innovation doesn't come from big budgets alone. It comes from making smart, forward-thinking decisions. Thank you for listening to this episode of This Educational Life. If you'd like to share your own experiences or suggest a topic for a future episode, drop us an email at thiseducationallife@train.com. We'd love to hear from you. Be sure to rate, review, and follow the podcast wherever you listen so you never miss an episode. Until next time, let's keep building schools that make a difference for today and tomorrow.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the panelists and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Train Technologies. Train Technologies makes no warranty or guarantee concerning accuracy or completeness of the content presented in this podcast.